Output done. Okay. Now, folks, what I want to get into. This is a Sunday news flash. It's going to be about 15 or 20 minutes long. Just days after Trump has made a very angry phone call um, to Deputy Defense Secretary Steve over extreme U.S. munition shortages following Camp David clash with Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. Steve has now issued a directive to the U.S. defense firms, given no longer than 21 days to submit plans to rapidly escalate the production and delivery of weapons that are now at zero due to the war. Steve says years-long development cycles are not acceptable. And we must dramatically accelerate our program schedules and expand our production capacity now due to catastrophically low amount of munitions. Pentagon last week secured a Lockheed Martin contract worth up to $58.6 billion for PAC-3 air defense production. This Monday signed agreements with Northrop Grumman and Lockheed Martin to increase production of PAC-3 and THAAD missiles. THAADs is high altitude interceptors. We've got problems in the Japanese financial systems. Japan's four largest insurers are sitting on $14.5 trillion of yen in bond losses. You heard that right. Bond losses. It's $91 billion US dollars. These are unrealized losses, meaning they only become real if the insurers sell. The cause is rising Japanese bond yields. When yields go up, the price of bonds already held goes down, and these firms hold enormous amounts of Japanese government debt. We're going into a very, very bad episode here globally on economics. If it is not done carefully to fix this, which I have no confidence that it will be, we're going to end up in a worldwide Great Depression. Russia's state nuclear energy company Rosneft says 7 Chinese vessels will sail to Europe via the Northern Sea Route. This is up in the Arctic. With Sea Legend shipping launching the route's first regular weekly container service. Let me get this up so I can see the stream a second, folks. Okay, I think we have this up. I think you all can hear me. Can I get a 5 in chat if you can hear me? There's been no chatters. What I'm going to do right fast is share this out. I gotta go here and get the info on this. Share the link. We're gonna pitch this over here in Discord. I think we're going to start maybe doing these news flashes like this, a 15 or 20 minute stream that's just jam-packed full of news. Good deal. Taxi says it all good. But yeah, we're going to start seeing Russia and China in the Arctic with shipping routes. Moscow hopes the Arctic route can become a major alternative to the Suez Canal amid growing instability in the Persian Gulf. Todd Blanche was confirmed as Attorney General, and guess what? He is in the e-files. Blanche is listed as a person on the email chain discussing filings in the e-file case shortly after his arrest and before his death of Jeffrey. Crude oil. U.S. crude oil inventories are experiencing unprecedented decline. Total U.S. crude oil inventories have fallen for 17 consecutive weeks, the longest streak on record. You heard that right, the longest streak on record. This surpasses the previous record of 16 straight weekly declines seen in 2021. Since early April, crude oil inventories have plunged 166 million barrels to 712 million barrels, the lowest since March of 1984. Our SPR, Strategic Petroleum Reserve, alone has dropped 111 million barrels since March to 305 million barrels. It is the lowest since February of 1983. Meanwhile, excluding the SPR, U.S. oil inventories in general have fallen for 10 consecutive weeks, matching the 2018 record streak. U.S. oil supplies are experiencing a historic decline. And we just lost 800,000 barrels a day that we was getting from Saudi Arabia because of the closure of the waterways over there. So 800,000 barrels a day just vanished. Now, the 800,000 barrels is that heavy crude that we need to refine, because our refineries are not really set up to refine the light sweet crude that we make over here. We've had a very big volcano go off in Colombia. A strong ejection of ash and sulfuric gas was recorded in the Purance volcano in Colombia. Let's see here. We're seeing a huge uptick in air patrols of the Baltic Seas. We had to have P-8s up and a bunch of other ISR flights up just that way. The ship called the Ark German something. It was the name of it. The Ark Germania, or something like that. Because it was going to transport a package. Let me pull this up just a second. Where's it at? I've got it here somewhere. These aircraft spent 6 hours fine combing the southwest Baltic Sea for enemy units above and below surface before command would let the ship Ark Germania leave the Karg port for transport of military units across the Baltic Sea. Now, this was August 7th. They're very concerned over something. And this comes as news comes out that Russia is going to attack the Baltics. U.S. intelligence says that it could happen within 2 weeks. Let's see here. Oh, North Korea. Ballistic missiles are being fired at Ukrainian cities. There is a whole brigade, or a whole unit, of ballistic missile launcher systems that the North Koreans are controlling and launching over into Ukraine now. While another 30,000 North Korean troops have reportedly begun arriving in Russia. This is going to bring the North Korea total commitment to around 60,000 personnel. To put that figure into perspective, It's comparable to a substantial portion, if not all, of the British Army's regular deployable ground forces, including its infantry, with Royal Marines added for comparison. So a massive amount of manpower is coming from North Korea. They're also doing, they've got a ballistic missile unit that is launching stuff over into Ukraine. China is experiencing very, very bad flooding around Beijing again. They've had to open all 9 gates on the Three Gorges Dam and all the major dams around that area. It's causing widespread flooding and destruction and devastating downstream villages and small towns. It's affecting millions of people. I want to know how many crops. I'm gonna go ahead and limb and say 30%, if not more, of the Chinese crops over in the eastern part of China has been flooded and destroyed now. But this is just the beginning of this. This is going to get worse and worse and worse as we go on into this, you know what, the GSM. There was some weather people talking about how they couldn't believe how fast these typhoons are forming and getting up to category 4 and 5s. This will happen. These storms will go from like category 1 to category 5 in about 24 hours as we go on into this GSM. They said they couldn't believe it was happening within days. It's going to happen within 24 hours in a few years from now. Trump has renewed his attempt to seize control of the Federal Reserve in defiance of the Supreme Court. Now, Hugo in Venezuela done this same exact move, and it led to hyperinflation and destroyed the Venezuelan currency. And that very well could happen with our currency. I don't see how and why they are letting him do this in defiance of all these courts, especially the Supreme Court. This ain't right, folks. We've got Canada has declared a state of emergency. They've got out of control British Columbia wildfire. Israel military has directly informed the CENTCOM commander, Admiral Brad Cooper, that Israel does not need approval or support from the U.S. to wage war against Iran, adding that we are currently making preparations to start the war. So Israel is preparing for an unilateral strike on Iran, as it concludes the U.S. is no longer willing to finish its job. Also, we've got a large drone carrying significant amount of explosives has exploded on Bulgarian. Yeah, you heard that right. Bulgarian territory. It went all the way through Romania into Bulgaria. Yeah, you heard that right. All of the way through Romania undetected and exploded just 200 meters from a vital compressor station of the Trans-Balkan pipeline. Imagine that. Now, Russia has been probing air defense of NATO for a while now, with all these little drone incidents and missile incidents and stuff. And it gets tested to see how good they've figured it out. So they managed to get a drone all the way through Romania into Bulgaria and explode it 200 meters from a vital compressor station of a Trans-Balkan pipeline. We're getting close to this kicking off, folks. We've got a huge eruption of a volcano in Japan. Families of 5,000 sailors aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln confronted the U.S. Navy Secretary over alleged food shortages, contaminated water, and crew exhaustion. Now, the USS Abraham Lincoln has been deployed for 6 months now. The crew has had 2 days off in 6 months. From what I am hearing, there is no soap, there's moldy showers, and some of the toilets are broken. And these families have confronted the U.S. Navy Secretary over food shortages, also contaminated water and crew exhaustion. Japan's fourth largest life insurers has reported $96 billion in bond paper losses. That's major. Iran boarded and seized a ship in the Strait of Hormuz yesterday. 800,000 Russians may be sent to war without announcing a new mobilization. This is the reason why Russia has closed down its borders. Because they're fixing to do a general mobilization. Now, there was something that I posted last night. Let me see if I've still got this in chat. I do not see it, so okay, we'll move on. Here is some information about the drone that has flew into Bulgaria all the way through Romania. An unidentified drone entered Bulgarian airspace from Romania at 8:10 a.m. Now this is 8 o'clock in the morning. It's just amazing. Daylight. And a drum that sounds like a moped. How in the world did this thing make it all the way through Romania into Bulgaria undetected? Now, this report is saying from the Bulgarian Prime Minister, he is saying it exploded within 100 meters inside the Bulgarian territory near the compressor station. Aircraft went completely undetected by Romanian and Bulgarian radar, as well as NATO's Combined Air Operations Center, according to the Bulgaria's Prime Minister. So it went completely undetected by Romania, Bulgaria radars, as well as NATO's Combined Air Operations Center. Reports Zelensky is saying the U.S. is going to supply Ukraine with some Patriot interceptors every month. Canada has canceled all flights to Dubai until 2027. In the last week, Russia has conducted provocations all over NATO territory, explosions in Bulgaria from drones, assassination attempt on a European arms manufacturer, a bomb attempt on a German airport. Of course, we know about that. And then Thursday night into flight Friday morning, there was 7 more drones that was flying around in the same area with a wingspan of about 4 meters. And they went around a bunch of key military installations and got a good look. Now, these drones are coming from these shadow tankers off the coast of Germany, the Russian Shadow Fleet. We've got airspace violations in Romania with drones and missiles into Poland within the last week. Now, Trump is upset that judges has called him a tenant in the White House. Trump says we are not a tenant who pay rent and do all the other things that a tenant must do. We are presidents, blah, 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 blah. Elected by the people of the United States of America, we have many rights, including the right to fix, renovate, secure, protect, and beautify the White House grounds, which has been built and rebuilt, renovated, and re-renovated, repaired, and simply made better many times since 1792, and never needing permission from Congress. That is just not true. Many of the changes, including the structural changes, have required Congress approval. He does not have the right to change the White House to his personal whim. Um, Trump says China sells us wind turbines, but they do not use them. They have one that is big. It doesn't work. It's just for show. They are very smart. That's actually not true. China operates thousands of wind farms with more than 227,000 turbines nationwide. It is the clear global leader in wind energy, holding roughly half of the world's installed wind capacity and generating over 40% of global wind electricity. Russia has called on all BRICS member states to begin joint development and manufacturing of drones. Russia is wanting all the BRICS members to begin joint development and manufacturing of drones. They're getting ready, folks. Now, Iran was a giant trap for us. We're going to have 5 aircraft carriers now out of service due to maintenance. And they're going to be months-long maintenance. The Washington that had the broken toilets and is now in maintenance dock is going to be there for 9 months. Now the Lincoln is having the same issues, so it's going to have to come back and be in repairs for about 9 months. Why are we not rotating these aircraft carriers and our troops? You got to do rotations on this stuff. You can't just deploy something and run it until it's completely broke and then bring it back home and then send another one out and run it until it's completely broke. It's just not how this stuff works. You've got to do rotations. Let's see here. That's about all I got for you right now. Here, y'all. 7 suspicious drone flights were observed over Budweiser's Patriot Wharf maintenance facility, an underground logistics depot in Germany between 2200 and 5 a.m. on the night leading into Friday. The Patriot Wharf is Europe's sole facility responsible for maintaining and repairing Patriot air defense systems. This is Thursday night into Friday. Drone flights. Our U.S. Treasury Secretary is wanting the Fed to print more money to intervene in the yen because he already spent all the Treasury's foreign exchange reserves earlier. The U.S. barely owns any foreign exchange because, as the insurer of world's reserve currency, it generally doesn't have to intervene in its own currency. But now the U.S. financial situation has deteriorated to such a degree that Japan cannot be allowed to sell their bond holdings because it's going to send our money into a downward spiral and cause inflation to reignite terribly. We don't have inflation. It's the reason why they can't lower interest rates. Trump administration is going to pay a German energy company $1.2 billion to cancel its U.S. offshore wind project. Yeah, you heard that right. We're going to pay a German energy company $1.2 billion. Yeah, that's billion with a B. Dollars to cancel its U.S. offshore wind project. And here we are with Social Security, Medicaid, everything going to have to be cut because they're dry on money. And here we're spending $1.2 billion to get this company to cancel its wind project. There is so much more places this money could be used instead of burning it away like he's doing. This is getting about ridiculous. We could have put this $1.2 billion into Social Security fund or the Medicaid fund or split it. $1.2 billion would have went a pretty good ways. Now this is about ridiculous. The largest mortgage lender in the U.S., United Wholesale Mortgage, has plummeted 35% Friday after reporting a massive quarter two of 2026 net loss of $451.9 million and suspending its common dividend. The fall below the dollar threshold is sparking fears of another potential 2008 lending crisis, but this is going to be way worse than the 2008 lending crisis. This is going to the likes of what happened in the 30s. Alright, folks, we have been live for. How long have we been live for here? 25 minutes. I'm wanting to keep this below 30 minutes. Also, U.S. officials on U.S. intelligence, the drone carrying explosives that was discovered at the airport in Germany this week was operated by the Russian government. Imagine that. Also, in 5 months, the federal deadline to stop buying Chinese rare earth and rare earth magnets expires. Despite tens of billions in support, the U.S. isn't anywhere near self-sufficient enough to meet its domestic needs. The funny part is that Reuters article suggests Trump will most likely need to taco out on the waiver and deadline, while China continues banning the exports of rare earths. Yeah. China is going to continue banning them, and we're not going to be ready. Russia is planning to attack NATO to test its strength, the U.S. intelligence says, and it could happen within the next 2 weeks. I think it would happen before the first of the year. So it's going to happen within the next 4 months. Let's see here. Musk has declined Ukraine's latest request to expand Starlink's military role, warning it could escalate the war, blah, 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 blah. This is ridiculous. Warning it could escalate the war and telling Kyiv it's time to make a deal. Kyiv does not need to make a deal. Russia is the one that needs to make the deal. Russia could simply pack its troops up and go back across its borders and this whole thing ends. If Kyiv makes a deal or quits fighting, Ukraine ceases to exist. And then Russia will take all of the equipment that Kyiv has and military personnel and anybody that's able-bodied. They're going to round everything up and they're going to attack Poland and Romania. Now, this is ridiculous that Elon says it could escalate because they've requested to expand the Starlink's military role. It could escalate the war, and he tells Kyiv it's time to make a deal. Just stupid. Completely just stupid. All right, folks, we've been live for 30 minutes. I am going to end this, and we will see you at 5 p.m. for the sermon with Charlie. So, with that, folks, we'll see you at 5 p.m. I'm going to start doing these little short news dumps. So, there you go. Y'all have a good